What is up, everybody? It is Ogg here, back with another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how we are the world record holder for the 1 to 60 with a time of 24 hours and 7 minutes. We're going to be talking about exactly how we got there with the original plan, how we diverted from the plan, some tips and tricks we had along the way with some secret prep that we'd been doing for months and things like that, and how you can do that as well. But first off, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped, whether you were just in the stream, whether you were cheering me along the way, whether you were helping with, some of the boosting things that we did, whether you were helping with some of the gathering. Huge shout out to Rocks, who did an immense amount of preparations, and Magester, who really helped me get my tune geared. We were on the server Pagel, but in secret for about probably 3 months prepping for this, between leveling up the tune, gearing up the tune, trying to farm resources, trying to get gold. I was able to get 5-piece T2. It was a wild ride. We tried a bunch of new strategies. We took some risks, and it was a ton of fun. So we're going to hop into it, but thank you so much to Rocks, Magester, Deathcoyer, Deadly, everyone else who helped out along the way, all my mods in my chat, and then everyone from the guild, Potato and Onyxias Bakery on Pagel. Let's jump into it, guys. So let's talk a little bit about the plan itself. So obviously, if you guys were there for the last World Record Challenge, we unveiled mob tagging. And so some people knew about mob tagging, but a lot of people didn't. And so mob tagging is the process by which you use a hunter or a warlock's pet to kill a mob. And so you need someone in that same zone as you. You can see here that we are in a group. I have it hidden so people can't try to figure out what server I'm on. I also named my tune Iron F. So if they did /who Iron F, they would find Iron Forge. So they needed to do /who Iron F Mage. So just another kind of element to try to keep our server as, hidden as possible to limit griefing. Obviously, people were able to figure out it was Pagel, but it limited some of the people, and we actually didn't get griefed at all, which was fantastic for the run. And so we did mob tagging. And so you need somebody in your area in that same zone as you. Can't be over in like Stormwind City. It's got to be outside Stormwind City in your zone. You need no one else in your group, and then you need hunters' pets or warlock pets following you around, tagging the mobs. So I have a full video on it, basically showing it, explaining it if you want, but it's pretty simple. You just tag the mob, hunter's pet kills it. Because it's the hunter's pet, not the hunter, you're getting full experience because it doesn't count as a player killing it. Once a mob is green to you though, green to the person killing it, so at level 48, it would be green to 60s, the 60 can still do damage. Now the way that works is the person that is doing damage is considered to not be an egregious level higher than the mob that they're killing, which means that it's reasonable that they're trying to kill it. And so Blizzard says, okay, well, then the person that is actually tagging it should get the full experience because they weren't helped out drastically. Well, when you have about 20 people helping you, maybe it's a reasonable level for those people, but it also dies very quickly. And so that is a very quick way to level up as well. So what you could do in theory, and the fastest / played right now at 19 hours did that, is that they had a bunch of mages following around with multi-boxing that were around their levels. So for example, if they were killing a 30 mob, they were having, 5 mages that were level 35, arcane explosioning, but because the mob was green to them, they got full experience. So that's another method that you can go with as well. But our plan was to mob tag as much as possible because we had limited lockouts. So for those of you who do not know, Blizzard recently made a change about 2 to 3 months ago, limiting the number of lockouts that you could use per day to 30. Now that doesn't start on like a 24-hour counter, so we couldn't start before 10 and then have it reset at 10 or something like that. Unfortunately, it is whenever you leave the first instance, that's 24 hours until that first instance resets. Since we were trying to go for under 24 hours, that limits us to a total of 30 instances. In order to go 1 to 60, we would probably burn normally, I'd say well over 100 instances. And so this just isn't feasible. And this is what made the challenge so difficult, because we had to come up with alternative leveling strategies. So mob tagging was going to play a crucial role, and we were initially planning to go till about 30 with mob tagging, but could potentially go further if the experience was good. From there, we were thinking about going over to SM until we got to about 38. Then from SM, go over to Mara. And the day before the actual run, I was testing the Mara 500 pool, did it successfully twice, and made the decision that I wanted to implement the Mara 500 pool to save lockouts. For those who do not know, the Mara 500 pool gives about 75% of a level per Mara run, and the run takes about 22 to 25 minutes. So I'm going to have a video coming out on that probably within the next couple days. So definitely stay tuned for that video because it is a wild pool with so much experience, but we decided to implement that. After Mara, going over to ZF. And then the question is, how many lockouts did we burn at that point, right? It was an exact science. And then if I died, that could potentially provide issues with lockouts and things like that. And so my tentative goal was just to get to that point and then start doing turn-ins and then also go into some more mob tagging up at the higher levels. And so if you guys don't know, Hinterlands mob tagging is crazy experience. You guys are going to see that a little bit later, but that's using mobs that are level 48 or higher. So you get full experience even if people do the full damage to them. So you guys are going to see that in a little bit. From there then going to ZG to close out the leveling and then doing the ZG coin turn-ins to level out the leveling. So that was my plan, but best laid plans often go awry, and they 100% did. So let's jump into what actually happened. So our first mistake was actually right off the bat. We named our toon Arleus with a tilde on the A, basically thinking, well, it'd be harder for people to figure out the name. And what I did was I had a person invite me before we even started and then do the mob tagging while I set up my bars. But unfortunately, that didn't work very well because my keybinds didn't transfer over. So for whatever reason, with the A having the tilde or whatever it's called over it, my keybinds would not transfer over, and so we decided, let's restart. So we restarted with a toon named Iron F. So this is my second idea for a name, obviously not having the tilde. And the reason for Iron F is to get it so that if they did a /U for Iron F, it would be Iron Forge. So they would have to go for Iron Forge or for Iron F Mage. So it just made it a little bit more difficult to find, but then we got off and running. We had somebody trade us full gear while the trading was going on. Rox invited me on her toon and was mod tagging to get me experience while I got all my gear and items to not waste any minutes. And those minutes ended up being pretty crucial in the end. So shout out to Rox for that. She also prepped us with full gear, full pots and everything like that. But we started off mob tagging at the lower levels. We start off in the Kobold Mine just because the mobs are level 4. They're very easy just to hit and get down as quickly as possible. Once we hit 4, we worked our way over to the southern part, or I guess northern part technically of Northshire Abbey, where it's the bandits. And then those bandits around that farm are fantastic mobs because they're all stacked up really close and it's a very quick and easy experience. Once we hit level 6, we went over to the boars and made a little live to win run and honed in our inner Eric Cartman, I guess, and played live to win for about 15 minutes while we grinded up on boars. So hyperspawn locations are huge, guys. You need to figure out which locations are the hyperspawn locations if you want to do mob tagging. Hyperspawn locations basically just mean that a mob has to be alive, or a set number of mobs has to be alive. And typically I think this was probably intended for people on, you know, release day or high pop servers or things like that to always have mobs that they can kill for quests. And so you want to think about areas that might have quests as potential hyperspawns. That's probably going to be a likely place for mob tagging, or just high density mob areas. And so here is the boar spawn. You can see we just go around in a clockwise formation, constantly wanding boars. As we kill a boar, another one respawns, and so we always have boars up. We did that until level 9, and then we went over to the crabs. The crabs is going to be the best place to mob tag, and even if you're horde, you should probably get a summon over to this crab location. It is in northern Westfall, and basically there are 5 crabs that always need to be alive. And so you kill one, you just turn around, you can see one just pop up right in front of you on the screen, and you can just basically go and get tons of experience. We're talking about 140 to 150,000 experience per hour when you only need 10,000 experience per level. So it is incredibly fast. You could see me going from 9 to 10, even with the summon, in about 8 minutes, and then from 10 to 11 in 4 minutes and 52 seconds. And you can see that in another 2 minutes, we're already halfway through this level. So it is so quick going at these crab locations. Highly, highly recommend. At this point, we also started going down the fire tree. And so we initially went down the fire tree to get the improved fireball, making our fireball a 1-second cast. We then went towards getting the fire blast, improved fire blast for tagging, just for a shorter duration, and also going for the knock or for the pushback. And so there's a talent in the fire tree for a pushback, which decreases the amount of pushback that you receive by 70%. And so that is huge for this because that means that we can cast fireball in 1-second cast and just get off a ton of them. Eventually, though, you're going to out-level the crawlers. You always want to switch hyperspawn locations when the mobs become green, so we swapped over to the Murlocs. These Murlocs are over in Redridge Mountain, and so we basically just stand on this mound. Some are going to spawn right on you, so you can use Arcane Explosion to tag them. But you can see I basically just spin around using Fireball. Again, huge shout out to Rocks here, coming in clutch with a ton of mana potions. You can see I have 28 of them that I'm basically burning through every single time I lose mana, and she's constantly reminding me over Discord too, just to basically burn them whenever it's on cooldown. And so we're just grinding as quickly as possible. You can see that at level 16, we're an hour and 13 minutes into the level. We are already leagues ahead of our previous world record challenge, and so it is going phenomenally, and I can't say thank you enough to everybody who helped out with the mob tagging, because a lot of them I personally didn't even ask, and they just volunteered to help just because they were friends with somebody else that was helping. So huge shout out to all of them who came out and helped. But we could see here that we were burning through the Murlocs at a very good rate. Once we hit level 20, we went over to Stonewatch Keep, and so Stonewatch Keep is full of elite mobs. Now, these elite mobs are going to have about 4 times the health of a non-elite, but they are going to give 2 times the experience. So if you only have 1 or 2 hunters helping you out, definitely don't go for these, because it's not going to be worth the extra damage that you're going to take, or that you're going to do or need to do, right? You can see these mobs have like 1200 health at level 20, so lots of health. However, they also give the double experience. So if you have enough hunters and if you have enough healers, or enough warlocks rather, then you're able to burn down these mobs, and it's a great location to get a ton of bonus experience. So we went over here and we made one big loop over basically the entire side of eastern Redridge Mountains. This is not a hyperspawn, but it is a mob dense location with a bunch of different knoll camps and things like that. So we're able to burn through a lot of mobs very quickly and just keep on going and going and going. And we were able to get very, very good experience per hour from level 20 until 26. At 26, we swapped over to Duskwood. So this is a new location. This was not there in the original world record challenge that I did a few months ago, and this Duskwood location was incredible. So if you guys want a mod tag all the way up to level 30, definitely check out this location. We were able to go about 130 to 140,000 experience per hour, and this is the point where we diverge from the plan. So this part of this, everything up to this point was part of the plan, but at this point I said this experience is so good, let's continue doing this to try to get as few lockouts needed from SM as possible. SM's fantastic, and you're getting half of a level every single set that you do of the 4 instances, because if you don't know, SM, every single instance in SM counts just as one comprehensive instance. However, it's still a lockout, and I want to limit the lockouts as much as possible because I know we're going to need them later on when leveling gets much more difficult. So we decided, okay, let's test out some other strategies as well. So we stayed here until we were 32. Until we were 32, and then we tested out some new locations that we hadn't even checked before the run. So the first location that we checked was the Stormguard Keep, and so this is over in Arathi Highlands, and it has a bunch of elites, ranging from like 35 to 37. The unfortunate part, though, is the Voidwalker minions that come along with these elites give basically no experience. There's a bunch of stealth mobs, so it's risky to potentially die, and the mobs are red to us, so it's going to be pretty difficult to do this well. It's just not going to be a ton of experience. Maybe if you have a ton of people following you around where you can just global these people, it's worth it. If you don't, though, it's probably not going to be worth it just because they do have 4,000 health, which if a pet's normally doing about 120 damage per tick, it's probably not going to be worth it. Maybe, though, if you have a bunch of mages following you around that are actually around the level where the mobs are green and you can AoE them down, it might be worth it then. So we bailed on that location, and then we started doing the Witherbark locations, which is just more east in Arathi Highlands, and also the Orc camp in Arathi Highlands. So we made one big loop with these, and this was actually a ton of experience, and so this was really good. The Witherbarks are non-elites, which means we're going to get less experience per mob, but you can see that they only have about 1,200 health, and so we're used to the 1,200 health from the previous mobs, and we're actually getting more experience than we were with the previous mobs, so this is really good experience. You can see 140-ish thousand experience per hour, and we're burning through the levels. We decided to do this all the way up until level 34, and at level 34 was when we were going to swap over to instances. So at level 34, we swapped over to our very first instance. We brought in the mage. You can see we have the leveling tune down at the bottom over here, and then we have my mage clearing through the SM1 pool. So the SM1 pool that I did was I would pull Morrowgrain. I'd pull Morrowgrain. I can't say his name. I tried. Pull him, start the run, and then do a no block strategy. So for those of you who haven't seen the video, if you're curious about this, definitely recommend this as a great way to burn through these. I did die once though in SM, and so I unfortunately did die once, which isn't great. I got overzealous in a jump basically, and didn't keep a blizzard and just got one shot by leeway. So make sure you're careful with these pools, but you should be able to get it down. SM's fantastic experience. As I said before, it is half of a level every single set of library, cathedral, and armory. It takes 12 minutes to do the 3 when you're perfectly efficient, which means you're getting half a level in 12 minutes, and we're going at about 25 minutes a level in the mid-30s, which is unbelievable. What you want to do, though, is you want to make sure that you have a group composition where you're focusing on the average level and you're focusing on the number of people in the group. So for those of you who did not know, the maximum experience that you can get is with 3 boosties in the group. So you can see here, 4 total people, myself plus 3 boosties. That's the maximum number of XP you can get. You also want to make sure the average group level is as close to the mobs as possible. So you can see SM, we have library, which it's about 34 to 35. We have armory, where it's about 36 to 37. And then cathedral, which is about 37 to 38. So we want the average group level to be about 36 or 37 for the maximum experience that we can get. And that's exactly what we did. We were able to get incredible amounts of experience. Have the full video if you guys want to check it out. But this was very good and got us all the way to 37. At 37, we decided to risk it. And we went for the Mara 500 pools. So if you guys are not familiar with the Mara 500 pools, basically, it is literally pulling roughly 500 mobs. It is incredible. And Mara just keeps on evolving. We started off with a 180 pool, and then we went up to 200, and then 360, and then now we're at 500. And it is wild. If you can pull it off, though, the experience is out of this world. We're talking 75% of a level per individual run, all the way up until you're about 50. Obviously, we can't do that because we did not have that many lockouts. If we had unlimited lockouts, this would be the way to go. Because you could, in theory, do 30 minutes a level, burn through the lockouts, and just level up incredibly fast. But unfortunately, we were unable to do that because we did not have 70-some lockouts to burn. So we only did this up until level 40, and then we changed strategies. The other thing, and the other reason why we probably didn't want to do it anymore, is because it is risky. I died twice doing this. And if you die, not only do you lose the 20-some minutes that you spent running the actual run itself, but you also lose a 5-minute run back. For those of you who have done Mara boosting, you know that the run back to Mara is absolutely atrocious and takes forever. And so if you have to do that run back again, it is just horrible. But the end of the runs, when you're blizzarding down 500 mobs at once and making your entire computer lag just from the amount of numbers that you're seeing on the screen, is pretty cool. So I'd say it was worth it. It was a really good time, and it was pretty awesome to be able to pull off the 500 pull after just practicing it a couple times, and I got really lucky with it, to be honest. But we were able to get it down, and we were able to get all the way to level 40. At level 40, we unveiled a new strategy. So for those of you who know from the last video, from the last World Record Challenge, we did do coin turn-ins, ZG coin turn-ins. But that's not the only repeatable turn-in quest. At level 40, a turn-in quest for Troll Tribal Necklaces actually becomes available. And so you can see here that Rox prepped us off with a ton of gear and a ton of, Troll Tribal Necklaces to be able to turn in constantly. But if you go to, this is, I believe, Alliance only. If you go over to Hinterlands and you go up into the Wildhammer Keep, you're going to be able to turn in these Troll Tribal Necklaces. You get the Troll Tribal Necklaces from trolls throughout Hinterlands, but then you can turn in sets of 5 of them for about 400 experience per turn in. Eventually it goes green at, I believe, 48, but you can do it all the way up until 55, just with less experience. Similar to the other turn-ins, though, you can just click it, turn it in, cancel, click it again, turn it in, cancel, click it, turn it in again, and it ends up looking a little like this. So you can see here that we're basically just spamming right-click and then spamming cancel, and just doing it over and over. And you can see the XP per hour shoot up to 3 million XP per hour at level 40. And we end up going 41 to 42 in about 3 minutes. So if you want to do all the prep, if you're trying to go for a world record challenge, this is definitely something you can do. And you, in theory, could do this all the way up to 55. And then you could do other turn-ins all the way up to 60. We, however, wanted to actually have fun with the challenge and not just do turn-ins the entire way. And so we decided not to do that, but we did do this all the way up until 42 to make ZF a little bit easier. and a little bit more time efficient. Once we hit 42, we hopped into old reliable ZF. Now, this is probably my most experienced farm. However, we're also 12 hours straight into playing, and I died twice in ZF. I didn't die because of the kill phase. I died because I got overzealous with pulling graves at a lower level, and I also died because a reset spot got changed by Blizzard and no longer worked. And so I tried to go on that reset spot and then proceeded to get pummeled down by Shadow Bolts. However, ZF is fantastic for experience. If you guys haven't seen this, which you probably have, the ZF1 pool can average out to about 330,000 experience per hour if done perfectly efficient with Rested XP. It's absolutely incredible, and you can just fly through the levels. It is about another 30 minutes per leveling strategy, and so we did this from level 42 to 46. The bad part about ZF, though, is if you die, a lot of the times, the lockout counts twice. And so the best way to reset this is to log out inside the instance, have somebody else reset for you. So as you can see here, we had Deadly waiting outside. We would log out, Deadly would reset, and we'd restart. The issue is, though, when that happens, it could potentially count as 2 lockouts, and that is exactly what happened twice. Now, it's not confirmed 100% that it counts as 2, because sometimes it is counted for 2 for me, sometimes it hasn't. But it led me to not know whether I had those 2 lockouts that I could use in the future for ZG or not. Because since I died, they might be there, they might not. And the worst thing that could happen would be to get to like level 57.5 right before the ZG turn in and then be out of lockouts and be like, oh crap, what do I do now? So this was a major turning point for me and kind of changed up the rest of our plans for the future leveling. But we were able to do ZF from 42 to 46. As I said, we had 2 deaths in ZF, not to the kill phase, but to other things. But we were able to get some pretty quick levels as we went along. With the ZF pool, we were also doing the scarabs. So we'd kill the full, normal ZF pool with the zombies, and then we'd kill the scarabs as well. If you guys don't know how to do that, basically you drag them to the exact same location. So you aggro them all into the room, drag them over, use this reset spot right here to jump up onto the sledge, and then basically take out the scarabs. It's an extra 1 to 2 bars per run, so I highly recommend it if you're worried about lockouts. If you're worried about pure efficiency, then I wouldn't recommend doing it because it's not going to be worth it for the efficiency's sake, but it is worth it for the lockouts. At 45 and about like 5% from a level, we went back over to turn-ins, and we did that up until 47. Now, the reason why we did them up until 47 was because ZF XP goes down. So at that point, the mobs in ZF at 46 are going to be green, and so they're going to give us less experience. So we said, okay, let's get over to, this turn-in, redo the turn-ins for a little bit up until 47, and then let's get back into mob tagging. And so the next mob tagging location we're going to go to is in southeastern hinterlands at the Elite Troll location. So down here, we're able to get roughly 230,000 experience per hour. So as I said before, if you want to mob tag all the way to 60, that's the fastest way to level. If you have some dedicated people to help you out for about 12 hours, you can go 1 to 60 in 12 hours. Not a question whatsoever. You could probably even go quicker if you use a combination of turn-ins as well. You can see that we're getting 600 experience per mob. You have a bunch of level 60s killing them. And the benefit is that because these individual mobs are level 48 plus at the top part of Jintha'Alor, you can get full experience from these mobs, even if they do their normal damage. You don't need pets anymore. You don't need anyone in the group. You can get full experience. At the same time, we're also looting more troll tribal necklaces, which we can then use to turn in. So all we did was we ran in, we tagged the mobs. Once we had tagged the mobs, everybody else killed it real quick, and then we got the full experience. So it was great. It was a very, very quick way to level. For fun's sakes, probably not going to be the most fun strategy, but I did want to do it because we were worried about lockouts. At this point, we had somewhere between 22 and 24 lockouts that we had used. Obviously, those lockouts with the discrepancy between the two is because of ZF, and so I wanted to make sure I had enough for ZG. The plan with ZG was basically to go from 56 plus until 57 and then 1 pool ZG. But even if you are doing a massive pool of ZG, you're only getting 20% of a level when you're boosting an alt. That means that 5 lockouts were going to be used before I even got to 57. And so if we didn't have 3 lockouts left, which we had planned for with the 8, so 22 plus 8 would be 30, and that'd be the 30th lockout to hit 58, we weren't going to be able to go all the way through 57. So I made sure that we got enough experience from mob tagging. You can do this until you hit about 51, 52 range, and then some of the mobs that are level 48 are going to become green, and the experience is going to slow down. So once we hit that point, we decided to swap over to Tyr's Hand. Actually, before we went over to Tyr's Hand, I forgot about this. We went over to Western Plaguelands. So Western Plaguelands, the Cauldrons quests are actually incredible experience very quickly. And so what we did was we set up a summoning ring of people to summon us from the Cauldrons back and forth to Chillwind Camp to do the turn-ins. But before that, I had to go kill 15 of the Flayers and 15 of the Ghouls, basically to get the initial quest for the Cauldrons. Once we had done that, we could just summon to Fellstone Field and the next field and the next field and the next field and summon back to Chillwind Camp. One thing though, you have to make sure that you drop from the raid before you get summoned. And this mistake actually cost me probably 3 minutes because it takes a while for this guy to respawn. Even when I drop the quest, get summoned back to Chillwind Camp, pick up the quest, come back, it still takes time for him to spawn. So we just decided to mob tag some mobs over on the side while we waited for the respawn, but it did cost us several minutes with that little mistake. It was unfortunate, but make sure you drop the group if you're getting that summon back and forth. Eventually though, we did decide to get summoned back. We dropped the quest, target Fellstone Field. You can see that we lost a few minutes with this for sure. Re-picked it back up, got summoned back, dropped the group appropriately this time, but it did take a little bit for the mob to get respawned and actually get killed. And this cost us a few minutes in the end, which, as we saw before, if we cut out one of those deaths, or if we cut out this plus another maybe break, we're probably saving that 7 minutes for 24 hours. Once we get summoned back though, and once we eventually kill him, this is a ton of experience. So for those of you who do not know, every single time you turn in one of these Cauldron quests, it's actually the equivalent of 2 quests. The first quest is going to give you about 5,000 experience, and then the second quest is going to give you about 2,000. So we could see he finally spawns right there. We get the tag, get the kill outside the group, get the key, turn it into the Cauldron in the middle, and then we get all that experience. Overall, getting summoned back and forth like this only took us a total of about probably 8 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But you can see here, we get the summon back, turn it in right here for 5,250, get the summon, 2,500 experience, and then go to the next. So it's really, really fast experience to do these turn-ins and a great option if you're speed leveling and having people help you. Once we finished all those turn-ins though, we decided then to do the cloth turn-ins. And so we went to all the major cities and we did all the cloth turn-ins: rune cloth, mage weave, wool cloth, and silk cloth. Once we finished those, we did Morrowgrain turn-ins. And so again, huge shout out to Rocks, coming in clutch, prepped a ton of Morrowgrain and then had them all mailed to us. And so we could turn in the Morrowgrain turn-ins. You actually probably make a profit with the Morrowgrain turn-ins, especially with the potion of demon slaying. Once TBC comes out, that's going to be worth probably a decent bit actually. But every single time you turn in one of these Morrowgrain packets, I think it's 10 Morrowgrain each time, you get a packet of seeds. Now we were destroying the seeds and just selling them to a vendor to try to get rid of them, but you could see that we're able to go very quick through this actual turn-in. Similar to the other turn-ins, we're able just to do this very quick. But unfortunately, we do run out of space and we say inventory is full, inventory is full. And once I go into the inventory, I see that we do have the actual seed pouches. So we have to jump down to the bottom, sell it to the reagent down there, and then jump back up and continue doing the turn-ins. Once we finished that, then we did go over to Tyr's Hand and start grinding down these mobs. Now this is going to be a ton of experience. All these mobs are elite. So if you have enough people helping you out, you can get a ton of experience. You can also very quickly get global though, so make sure you're watching out, using your blocks as necessary. Lips maybe potentially could be used here just to try to stay alive as much as possible, but you're going to get a ton of experience. The other option is going to be Hearthglen. So Hearthglen is up in northern Western Plaguelands, and it is very, very good. Between the two, Hearthglen's probably more safe, but the mobs might take a little bit longer to respawn. We were getting about 250,000 experience in Tyr's Hand, but we eventually did get tired, and we had some people who had to go to bed, which is completely understandable because at this point it's, I think, 6 in the morning or something like that. Yeah, 6 in the morning at this point. So everybody, including myself, is very tired at this point, and we're just, trying to champ through. And so some people had to go to bed, completely understandable. And so our experience went down a little bit and we lost a little bit of time. Had we been in Hearthglen, we might have been able to get a little bit faster. So I'd recommend probably Hearthglen over Tyr's Hand, just because there's less casters and you can do more AoE capabilities. Tyr's Hand does have the Cathedral though, which does have a bunch of mobs you can kill at once. So that was pretty fun to mess around with for a while. After a long grind though, we finally hit 56 and we said, okay, it is time for ZG. And so for ZG, we were getting about 20% of a level a run. And the run that we decided to do was the massive pool. Unfortunately though, with great risks, or with great rewards come great risks. So you could flip it around a little bit. And with doing this pool, you run into a lot more issues. And those issues are the placement of potential berserkers. So we were going well, but I knew that in order to hit the 24 hours, I needed to be perfect, not only on this tune, but also on the level 57. And here I'm trying to hug the left side to get around the berserker, and I pull the berserker, and this gets me killed. At this point, we would need to basically summon me back over to Yojamba Isle, run the instances again, and I knew that I needed 3 more instances to be able to get through the lockout, which would be 45 minutes, and then I would have approximately 45 minutes to get through 3 lockouts on the 57, and it would just be very close. And so we started to explore other opportunities and other potential solutions in order to try to figure out if we could get this sub 24-hour time. The first was to basically try to pull it off at level 56 with my lower level. Now, if you guys didn't know, when mobs are 4 levels above you, they have about a 30% chance to resist you. And so the odds of you getting off the blizzard slows at a level 56 trying to do the solo ZF or ZG pool is very small. And so that's going to be tough. And so I went into the water, I forgot to put slow fall on my bars, and I had the first death on Iron F. And here we were just starting to make tons of mistakes because I saw in my head, I'm like, crap, that 24 hours is slipping away. I had been up for 24 hours already, and I was just making mistake after mistake after mistake. And so we died right here with the first death on Iron F. We then got back into the instance, and then here I was pretty much in panic mode. I'm just like, all right, we got to do this. I got to be perfect from here on out. I got to find a way to do this at 56. I'd done it before at 57, so I knew it was possible at 57, but 56 was a whole nother ball game. And so we got started with the pool, but unfortunately, since we had wiped in the instance before, when we came around the bend, the Berserker was in the worst place possible, and I wasn't even able to get them to the potential kill location. I was able to get them to the kill location in the next pool. However, with them being in the kill location, even starting to do the blizzard, it was just all over the place. And the fact of the matter is, with 50 mobs, if you're getting a 30% chance to resist, the mobs just can't get stacked up enough for you to pull it off at 56. 57, you have a 17% chance to resist, so if you have enough hit and you have some hit through the talents, you're able to pull it off. But at this level, it just wasn't feasible. And so we needed to come up with an alternative leveling strategy. And there came in Hearthglen. And this was kind of like that fourth quarter Hail Mary kind of move. And I can't give enough credit to the amount of people that came out of nowhere to help us out. We're talking 15 people who at 8 in the morning just hopped on, or 9 in the morning, I guess, hopped on and just tried to help us out get these last few levels. And so you can see we're running around Hearthglen. As I said before, Hearthglen is a lot more melee mobs, which is really nice because we're able to burn down these mobs a lot quicker. We also started doing Dowson's tier or Dowson's turn-ins as well, or Dowson's farm as a kill spot, because then I could get the Argent Dawn rep, because I knew that the turn-ins for the Argent Dawn rep would be good. For those of you who do not know, right now, you can also have some additional turn-ins through Nax. And so those additional turn-ins are Savage Fronds, Bone Fragments, stuff like that, right? And so those are great as far as turn-ins go because they're a quick boost of experience. However, what we found out during the actual run itself is that you can't do those turn-ins until you have friendly reputation with Argent Dawn. And clearly I did not have friendly reputation from leveling up, which presented a massive issue because that was about 35,000 experience that we were missing. And so in order to get that reputation, we decided to bring in Delson's Tears, and we also ran through and did some of the other locations for Undead throughout Western Plaguelands to try to get that last rep, in addition to doing Hearthglen. Hearthglen's great, but when you have a bunch of people and you're just burning through it, eventually you're going to hit the respawn kind of thresholds, and there's not going to be enough mobs to keep you busy the entire time. So finally, you can see here that we're getting enough rep. We're about to hit friendly reputation. I have enough turn-ins from Minion Scourge Stones where I can hit friendly reputation. But also at the same time, the timer is up to 23 hours, 58 minutes. And so this was the point where I knew that we were not going to hit 24 hours, but we were going to be darn close. And so I still had those turn-ins left from earlier, which I wasn't able to turn them in because I didn't have the reps. So I had them sitting in my bag. So I knew that this last little bit of experience would be easy to take care of. So we're just getting this final rep. We get summoned to Lighthold's Chapel, do those turn-ins of those quests, and then we hit, 58 and can do the ZG coin turn-ins. Did each of the turn-ins of the quests, and then that dinged us level 58, and we just needed the ZG summon. Then we were able to go, you can see the timer right now at 24:02, which means we were able to go from 58 to 60 in a total of 6 minutes. Actually less. Total of 5 minutes. 5 minutes for the last 2 levels, 100%. And so the fastest experience you're ever going to get in the game at 5 million XP per hour is going to be these ZG turn-ins. It's to be determined whether or not they're going to be able to be used in TBC to level up and get that boost. But this was how we closed out our competition. Our goal was to maximize the number of lockouts we could use, but unfortunately, we made a couple mistakes with ZG and died a couple times. Overall, though, I couldn't be more happy with the run. I couldn't be more happy with the amount of help and, the goodwill that people gave. You could see my body is literally shaking from hitting escape and right click as fast as humanly possible at this point. But it was one heck of a good time. It was a ton of fun staying up. Thank you everyone for all the support. Thank you for cheering us on. And, I can't wait to see what person comes out and beats this soon and sets new thresholds for the leveling, because it is a ton of fun to try to do these world record challenges. It took a lot of prep. It took about 3 months of prep. So thank you everyone so much for all the help that they gave. And in the end, here we were able to see that at a total time of 24 hours, 7 minutes, and 57 seconds, pretty much on the dot, we hit level 60.